Hello and welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 of the Sajin Photography Podcast. My name is Jason Teal, and we have finally made it into the 5th season of this podcast, and we're going to kick things off with something spicy. I am mad, I am pissed off, and I'm going to tell you all about it right now. All right, now, I was going to start things off with some wishful thinking and some positive vibes and everything like that, but I've been going through a little bit of a situation with my photography website. And as you know, these things are vital to any photographer. I'm sure you have your website and maybe you got like your backup on your Instagram or something like that. But I've had my photography website since probably about 2004. Maybe even as far back as 2003. Now, for the most part, I had been with the same service provider. I was originally with Lunar Pages, and they served me well over the years. But I think after probably almost 20 years, they packed up their bags and sold their services to a place out of Oakville, Ontario called Host Papa. Now, you have to throw up a few red flags whenever you come across a company that calls themselves Host Papa, but it was sounded okay. The rates didn't change, so I was pretty happy with the service. But the problem was, I think probably at the beginning of the year or maybe even last year, I started to get a hard press from they call them like customer support or something, but the problem was that they were coming across super sleazy. And what I mean by that was that they would almost shut down my account, or they would shut down my email so I couldn't receive any email. I was locked out of email or something like that. And I would say like, hey, like what's the story here? They say, oh, well, your email is full or something like that. I said, well, how is that possible? I'm not really receiving that much email through my websites. It just didn't really calculate properly to me. But always their solution is, you know what? If you upgrade to our Ultra plan from your LP Lunar Pages basic plan, this won't be a problem. Just upgrade and this won't be a problem. And I always said, you know what? I'm just going to tinker around with a few things, go into my C panel or whatever, and just delete the files. And that's what I did. So that dropped everything down to within, usual parameters, I guess you would say. And then I guess that wasn't good enough. So then I think probably starting the beginning of this year, it was another issue. It was resources. And they said, you're on a shared server. Your site is using so many resources. Now, you know me. I am not the world's most popular photographer. Nobody is going to my website. I keep my website on a basic plan because that's what I basically do. It's not a huge part of my life at the moment, and I just kind of want to have a website there. But the problem was somehow magically in the ethos of the internet, my little website was using a shit ton of resources, so much so that once again I had to upgrade my plan to the Ultra plan on Host Papa. And this wasn't really something I wanted to do. I didn't want to pay more than I am for my podcast hosting services just to have my name out there. So I said, no, like I'll solve this. And the problem was with a lot of the things I see with back home. Now, keep in mind that this is a Canadian company, so they have Canadian customer service. And by that, I mean, for those of us in Korea, we're used to customer service on a professional level. When you don't have to pull a full Karen, I want to talk to your manager. But, if you say like, hey, I want this done, they're going to snap into action and they're going to actually help you. Canadian customer service is like, fuck you for making me do my job. And I'm going to pull rank on you. So basically was like, well, it's your responsibility to look after your website. We're going to shut it down. Okay. And they shut it down. Now, I don't have access to the C panel. I don't have access to my mail anymore. Nothing. Okay. And this is kind of the problem that I have with dealing with Western companies is that when you are in Korea, especially, I find that the customer service is willing to work with you. If you call your credit card company or you call, your internet service provider, they will do something to kind of help you. However, in Canada, again, it's that sort of teacher tone, that professional tone. Like it was like a, I'm not going to tell you how to optimize your site. Just upgrade your plan and pay us more money, and the problems will stay, but just pay us more money. I don't want to deal with you anymore. And that's sort of what I got back and forth. Now, the funny part about the story is that I was getting two sides of the service spectrum, because after getting that sort of piss off and pay us more money, because we're not going to do a single thing unless you pay us more money, and we want you to pay us more money, I did what any other sort of middle-aged white male would do, and that was turn to Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, but I'm going to use the term Twitter. I turned to Twitter and I tagged them in a post saying like, hey, I'm having some issues and host Papa is doing fuck all to basically help this situation. Does anybody have any other options? And magically, whoever is on the host Papa Twitter account jumped in and said, "Oh no, no, like we'll help you. We've got a crack team of tech people who are gonna sort this situation out. Like we're gonna contact you soon. Just sit tight, buddy." And it was like night and day. Twitter, it was like, "Oh, hey, like you're a valued customer. Like we're gonna do what we should have done all along." And have some of our specialists who we have on staff to look at your situation and come up with some solutions. And really and truthfully, that's all I was really after. I was not after like discounts. I was not, wanting to talk to the manager and getting a refund just yet. But I was really just saying like, hey, like I don't know what is going on with my site, because my site is incredibly simple. It's a WordPress site attached to a site for my portfolio. That's it. So it should not be using up any more resources than it should. So then the tech people got in and they said, yeah, we've done some work and we think we've got it figured out now. No worries. We're very sorry that we had to shut down your site, blah, blah, blah. It's back up and running now. Thank you very much. And then a couple of weeks later, I get an email saying, look, your site's using a lot of resources and you know what? We're going to shut down your site again, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, yeah, we shut down your site before you even had a chance to respond to us. Please get back to us and pay us some more money so that we can get your site up and running again, blah, 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 pay us more money. And again, so here we have the issue that their crack team of tech guys had solved the problem, but suddenly my site was using more resources, okay? And then basically I did the same thing. I went to Twitter or X or whatever it is and said like, hey, like this has happened again. Like, it's getting pretty annoying now because like my site's up. I go to show my portfolio and it does, account suspended is what it's saying online. So I was like, I'm at wit's end here. So again, the Twitter guy sweeps in. No, sorry, Jason. We're going to sort this out. We've got a tech guy here. And the tech guy was really good. He was like, hey, Jason, okay, like you've got some bots that are combing your site pretty hard. Put this into your program, like upload it through the FTP server. And, this should like calm things down. Great. Thank you very much for the help. And then a couple of weeks later, guess what? My site is shut down again. So then I'm dealing with Caesar, the customer service rep, and I'm really at wit's end. Like I'm explaining to him for the millionth time that like I don't know how to fix this situation. I don't know what's going on. And he's really snarky. He's like, look, I cannot give you any more tips on how to optimize your site. Basically telling me that if I pay more, this problem isn't going to go away, but I'll have more resources to work with or something like that. But he's really snarky and I just didn't really like his tone. And that really chapped my ass. And so I said look, what are you coming up to the table with? Like, and they're like, if you do the ultimate plan or something, or the ultra plan, we can give you this and this and this. And we got a promotion running. And so I said, like, finally, I was like, okay, fuck it. Give me a year of the Ultra plan and like, let's just be done with this. As I'm sitting here doing this podcast, I really want, I am stopping myself from writing one of those like angry Karen emails to Caesar and really expressing my disappointment with the customer service because it really came across as like condescending. And why I say this is because like I have worked in customer service years ago. I have worked with people and I understand the situations that like sometimes you just don't get through to people. But the point I was really struggling with was that like every email I was clearly stating that I cannot find the solution to this problem, that I am asking them who have tech people to look at the problem from their end and tell me the solution or even help me find the solution because obviously it's causing them a problem. That's why they keep shutting down my site. But no, they wouldn't lift a finger. The only solution was to pay them more money. And that comes off as really bad customer service in my books because it's like, you know, oh yeah, like we know what the problem is, but fuck you. Pay us more money. And that's it. So, bottom line is I'm with Host Papa for about a year. During that time, I'm going to try and redo my site. I'm going to utilize the resources as best I can, basically, to get my money's worth. And then I'm just going to go to a different provider because honestly and truthfully, like when I look at what Host Papa is providing, especially for a photographer, it's not much. And I should have moved on years ago, but I'm just stubborn. I don't want to migrate my site or anything like that. So, with that being said, I'm just going to sit tight and try and do a bit of research. And really, if you guys have any ideas or pointers to help build a portfolio site, let me know because I'm going to be in the process this year of revamping my site and possibly, well, for surely once this year is up, move my site to another provider because I'm essentially done with Host Papa and Caesar and all those guys. It's funny though when I say this because I know sort of how these guys are. I dealt with them back in Canada, and I know that their rebuttal is like, "Oh, we tried every angle to help you," and blah 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 blah. And I can't say that they didn't do much. Like, I mean, they took screenshots of my C panel and showed me that there's faults. So don't get me wrong, they took screenshots and emailed them to me and showed me how bad of a website guy I was or something like that. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I've worked with these sort of bro tech dudes before and they sort of come off as like they know everything, but really and truthfully what they're lacking is sort of the customer service aspect where they can jump into action and understand that, I may not know when I'm looking at the cPanel screenshot exactly what the problem is. It's sort of like if you take your car to a mechanic and he just lifts the hood and says, "See, that's your problem. You got a clicky thingy right there." Yeah. And you're saying, "Okay, yeah, so it's clicking. Great. What do I do?" And they're like, "Well, you got to stop the clicking." Okay. How do I do that? Not our responsibility, but if you want to drive this thing, you got to stop the clicking. And that's sort of the service that they gave until I went to Twitter and then the tech guy jumped in. But literally a number of times I had jumped in and said like, "Hey, like I don't know what to do here. Can you help me?" And Caesar and all those guys were like, "You know what? It's out of our scope. It's out of the scope of the tech people." But again, as I said, when I went on Twitter, magically it was in the scope of their tech people. But the point I'll make is that dealing with these guys, I know that they'll come off as trying to say that they did everything possible or whatnot. But the point I really am stressing here is that they did the bare minimum and just stuck out their hand. And that's not really what a company should be doing when they encounter this situation. People are paying for a service. They should be working with those people to try and solve the situation, not saying, "Look, here's our ultimatum, 48 hours or we'll shut down your site, but we're not going to give you any money back or anything You just have to sort out this problem if you want to have a site. And that's sort of the problem as I'm seeing it right now with, Host Papa, is the fact that they're taking a service. Yes, they're providing a service. And yes, I was on a fairly old plan, and that they were willing to, say, move me to a different plan. But that seems like their intention all along. And I think when I boil this down, it just seems like sort of a conspiracy or something, just to get me off that old server and into something where they can try and upsell me. Because if you don't know, or if you don't have a website, especially these companies, their whole game plan is to sort of upsell you on packages. Do you want a whole complete website made for you? That's this package. Do you want numerous emails? That's that package. And that's the whole reason why they have a sales team. It's not, here is your service, we'll take the money. If you need any help, let us know. It's not like that. What's the website business has morphed into is it's like a used car sales lot, like where it's like, oh, you want windshield wipers? That'll be another $15 per month. Windshield wipers are standard, but hey, if you want the ultra wipers, which are exactly the same as the regular wipers, then that's another $15 a month. And that's kind of the sleazy sales pitch I'm getting here. But at any rate, the site is up and running again. And, I am going to probably make a lot of changes over the next little bit. But, really and truthfully, I'm questioning whether in 2023, does a photographer really need a website? Like, yes, maybe to have some sort of presence, but, everybody seems to be going to TikTok or Instagram or even Facebook, dare I say that word. But it's hard to really find the need for a actual proper website. And so I am questioning that as well. Now, the other bit of information I do want to talk about is, if you're following this podcast, please use the Buzzsprout links, because the other issue I had recently was with Podpage. Now, this is not a complaint, because I do understand that companies need to make money. It's basically what happened was Podpage went to a paid platform and failed to inform most of the people that were using the basic free plan, including myself. So one of my listeners told me basically, yeah, the link you posted doesn't work. It just takes me to, nothing. And again, it was one of those like freaky account suspended sort of situations. And, in this case, I'm not as mad, because I do have a backup, which is my basic plan from Buzzsprout, and I pay for it, so I might as well use it. Podpage, it looked a little bit better, and that's why I used it, but not really in the position to pay, again, another chunk of money just to have a prettier page. I'm going to use the other service that I'm paying for as well. So again, if you find any links with the pod page, just overlook them from now on to post the Buzzsprout links that will link the episodes for you. But just keep that in mind, that I'm not using that page anymore. So if you do see the links, because I do use a service called Social Bee, which basically I just dump a bunch of content and it circulates through, and I really like it because it keeps stuff fresh. I'm really terrible at posting a lot of stuff regularly, so that's why I use sort of Social Bee to sort of batch my photos and my blog posts and my podcasts all in one spot, and then it'll sort them out and post them. But the problem therein lies is that sometimes it'll post older stuff that, some people have joked that, you'll see in the middle of winter, I'll have a post that says like, it's springtime in Ulsan. Well, that's my content being shuffled a little bit. But at any rate, just a heads up, if you do see something linking back to Podpage, that is not going to work. And I'm actively trying to sort of sort through those links and replace them with the Buzzsprout links. Whew, that was a lot of complaining. But at any rate, I do want to really just hopefully, I'm not going to make a promise. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to be putting out regular content. I'm going to try and get back into the groove of podcasting, but honestly, it was a little bit challenge over the last, year or so just to get stuff out, but I'm really going to try. maybe that'll last a week, maybe it'll last a couple of months, but at any rate, I'm into season 5 and I'm charged up. So hopefully I can get back into the groove of things, because it does feel like I have sort of a little bit more energy with regards to putting out content, especially now that I'm teaching photography classes at the city's foreigner support center. So that sort of gives me a little bit more material to work with than just going out and shooting the odd seascape on the weekend when it's nice out. So I am hopefully going to try and put out more educational content and whatnot, and maybe help you guys out with, kind of piggybacking on the photography classes. So I'll maybe put out some more stuff that will help you through this podcast rather than just bitching and moaning about my website. So please note that I apologize. I just had to get that off my chest because it was something that I was just been dealing with for the last few months. And as I said before, it really chaps my ass because, I think with a lot of the service kind of stuff and, like the tech bro bullshit, you do get this sort of blowback. And I really hate that attitude. Like, I was talking about sort of building up this community, and with my classes, I can see a new photo community emerging. And that's something that I've been trying to cultivate over the last, few months with this class, because a lot of times the foreigner scene, quickly becomes toxic. And, going back to the first group of friends, that's sort of where I got my start to photography. A lot of those, kind of devolved into sort of these toxic friendships. And with my time at Wilson Online, there have been a lot of instances where the foreign community is the most toxic thing you've ever seen. And even just recently, I saw it emerge between restaurants, where a new restaurant run by foreigners, people are struggling to get a foothold into the scene, are getting mocked by another restaurant because their, English breakfasts are English breakfast, but they're not, like, I guess, up to their standards, coming from a guy who makes an English breakfast burger. But anyway, I'm getting off the point. But the point I want to make is that I really do want to use this podcast to sort of facilitate a more healthy community and give you content that maybe you can find useful. And I'm going to try and post it regularly, but don't hold me to it, because again, as I said, like, what I'm struggling with these days is with being so busy with all the classes now that I'm very, very grateful that I have, not just the photography classes, but the business classes. My weeks are flying by, and some days it's like I blink on a Monday and it's already Friday and I haven't had time to prepare anything. So just be it known that I am trying to get stuff out, but it's just, again, there's so many irons in the fire. At sometimes I just, I lose track of stuff. So at any rate, we're season 5, episode 1. This is the 5th season. As you know, basically it's 20 episodes per season, but the last season took a heck of a long time. Now, what I'm planning to do for the upcoming season is kind of an odd thing. I jumped into ChatGPT and I asked it, like, what is the best way to produce a Korean-based English podcast about photography? And it came up with pretty much what I had started off doing. So interviews and, locations and tips and stuff. So I'm going to use that information from ChatGPT and sort of build a more organized show, essentially. Like, that's what I should have done all along. And really and truthfully, that's what I tried to do. But I think along the way, I just got into my own head a little bit. So then you got season 4, which took way too long to finish. And with that, I'm going to try and basically, keep things a little bit more organized, and, maybe even use a little bit of AI to keep things on the professional, so you don't get an entire episode of me complaining about my website. How does that sound? Good? All right. Well, thank you very much for listening this far. And we've got some great shows, and I've got maybe a few interviews planned along the way. With that being said, thank you very much, and I hope you guys survive the Korean heat wave. Take care and get out there shooting.